We're back with Off the Press and the Breakfast this morning, and Tunde Kolawole joins us via phone. Tunde, it's good to have you join us. Good morning.
Good morning, Mercy. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for joining as well. We'll start off with the Punch newspaper. Banks ration all notes. NLC insists on 7-day ultimatum. Talking about the Naira crisis. Then you find customers lament as CBN retains withdrawals, old notes deposit limits. Well, the limit is still there. I think every other time you're being told that you have 5 million naira. Your limit says 5 million. You can't spend more than that. Fuel station traders and motorists accept old currencies. POS agents /charges. Okay, feels like we're returning to normalcy. CBN mum on disbursement of old 1,500 naira notes to banks. That's what you find. These are the riders. Now, but moving away from that, you find another header that says dollar shortage, banks /travel allowance, and foreign school fees. Okay. And foreign airlines trap funds hit $743 million. And then you also find another that says almost 13 million cyber attacks recorded during the polls, according to the federal government. Just before we move away, INEC will prosecute electoral offenders with speed. But how do you find them? Have you been able to apprehend any? That's the question. Review 1,000 NIN fee. Council tells the NIMC, and Oyo SDP candidate withdraws and backs Markinde. That's what you find this morning on the Punch.
Let's quickly go to the Nation newspaper with these headlines. The big one there, banks limit customers to 20,000 naira over the counter. Right after that, branches expect more allocation from the Central Bank of Nigeria. Don't reject notes, say governors. Foreign airlines trapped cash, now $743.7 million. Federal government promises to clear backlogs. 3 years after, China reopens borders to foreigners. And, of course, we have a lady kills landlord over electricity bill. A really bizarre one there. And Rivers Assembly candidate abducted. Some of the headlines on the front page of The Nation.
Well, we look at the Guardian newspaper this morning, reporting what's quite related to what the Punch has this morning on its front page. Naira crisis, slow compliance despite CBN order, and banks ration old notes. I take that again. Naira crisis, slow compliance despite CBN order, and banks ration old notes. Business owners, traders defer CBN and reject old 500 and 1,000 naira note. CBN silent and return bank note. Warehouse cash. Residual notes amount to drop in ocean, and analysts insist. You also find e-payment recorded series of failure transaction in February. Ariwa charges CBN to disburse old and new notes to the bank. So there might just be partial compliance, with the use of the old and the old notes apparently. Now, rule of law, over 130 CSOs and lawyers insist bar must go. Don't present Igbo senator with EFCC baggage, as Senate President says, Ohaneze. Don't present Igbo senator with EFCC baggage, as Senate President says Ohaneze. Delta PDP Gilbert candidate escapes assassination. And then you ask yourself, what's the essence of the peace accord? The governorship poll, INEC, NSA read riot acts and warn against violence. That's it this morning on The Guardian.
All right, an addition, a new face on of the press, Nature News. This seems to be an environmental publication. The lead story there, AFDB okays 362 million euro funding for Yobe Basin Trust Fund. And you have a bit of other very nice stories on the front page. We won't waste time. Let's quickly go over to Tunde Kolawole. Tunde Kolawole Esquire, let's start with the story that I think the papers are all interested in this morning. And of course, kudos to those papers who have been able to capture the picture on the front page of Nigerians going through what they go through every day recently, which is to queue at ATMs for nothing more than 3,000 to 5,000 naira for hours. we're told that the banks are rationing the old notes, like we saw in the Punch newspaper, like we saw in the Nation newspaper. They are not giving more than 20,000 naira over at the counter. In your opinion, has anything changed? We've been shouting Supreme Court, rule of law. Has anything changed?
Well, a little has changed. The mere fact that the Central Bank of Nigeria has given directives to the banks to start accepting the old note, that is the 1,500 naira note. You will want to say that at least that is a compliance. A step into full compliance with the decision of the Supreme Court, with the Naira legislation. The challenge in there is that there are not enough money yet in circulation. Immediately the Naira was signed, the Central Bank of Nigeria started mopping up all the old notes that they don't want to spend again. But that when you even get some of these old notes now, they're looking so ragged and very unsightly. Furthermore, we are all living through this. There is no exception to the rule. I go to the bank, and most of the things you have mentioned being reported in the paper is what I go through when I also go to the bank. The issue now is, do we have to subject ourselves to this inhumanity, this very crude way of managing the nation's currency? The answer is no. Secondly, is the economy likely to recover from the contraction that this redistribution of the Naira has really caused? Furthermore, we are also reading the newspaper that fake currency, that the new Naira is already in circulation. So when you look at all the ramifications of all these things, it would appear that we have merely cut our own losses in order to spite ourselves. The tragedy that this Naira legislation has befalling on Nigerians is what we will be counting and measuring in the next 10, 15 years to come. We may not be seeing it physically now, besides the suffering that the people go through when they go to the bank. But what about the economic implications of all these things? So I think the CBN and MP's government has not done well at all. In some other countries of the world, the bandwagon effect of what they have done, the ripple effect, would have taken a toll on the government of the day.
Okay, I want us to turn our attention to the Punch now, where the umpire, INEC's chairman, is quoted to say that they are willing and are ready to prosecute electoral offenders with speed, hoping that the police would hand over case files on electoral offenders to INEC for prosecution. I'd quickly like you to share your thoughts on that particular one. Have we made any arrests? Those who have been involved, those who have also made inciting statements, we saw that. Also suppressing and threatening voters, even in Lagos State. Have we seen any arrest that has been made? And do you believe, on the statement of the umpire?
Well, from what we read in the newspapers, it would appear that arrests were made in different parts of the country. You will recollect, I think in Kano, a member of the House of Reps is already being prosecuted by the police for very egregious crimes, motor arson, infliction of grievous bodily harm on people. I'm also aware, I think in Bauchi, another House of Reps, or is it a senator, has been declared wanted. I think it's a member of House of Reps, has been declared wanted by the police in connection with the last election. But what I want to say is this, like I've always said, INEC does not need to sit in Abuja and start saying that they want to prosecute an electoral offender. I have always said, times without number, that we don't need any commission to prosecute an electoral offender. All the offenses that are being committed when elections are being conducted are what the local DPO in the different police stations in Nigeria can handle. People who commit arson, They will destroy public property. They will engage in murder and all manners of crime. If the DPO in the respective places that are close to a ballot boxes are alive to their duty and empowered to do the work, all they needed to do when anybody try and go somewhere to compromise the integrity of the election, they arrest the person and prosecute the person. By the time you start establishing an electoral commission and then put especially them in Abuja and asking them to be prosecuting electoral offenders in about 770, is it 176 polling booths all over the country, you are never likely to get good results from there. You and I will see, we established the ESPC to be policing a country of about 200 million people. Has it worked effectively? The answer is no. The IICPC, have they been able to cover the ground effectively? The answer is no. Let us jettison this idea of having an electoral offensive commission and then prosecuting people from Abuja. The local DPOs, if they are not compromised, have the wherewithal and the law empowers them to prosecute anybody who engages in any of the infractions that are usually associated with the Nigerian election. For me, centralizing this is like not ready to do anything.
Interesting. The Nation newspaper gives us an update on the situation between the federal government and foreign airlines. If you remember some time ago, some of them suspended their services because of their funds that were trapped in the country. Yes, and the paper is now telling us that now the money has gone to $743.7 million, and the federal government is planning to clear the backlog. The International Air Transport Association, IATA, has gotten involved because they are the ones that made this revelation that the foreign airlines have that amount of money, $743 million, trapped in the country. In December, we're told that it stood at $549 million, but it rose to $662 million in January, is what we hear. The amount is contained in a letter titled Special Appeal on Airlines Blocked Funds in Nigeria, signed by the area manager of West and Central Africa for IATA, Dr. Samson Fatukun. This is surely embarrassing, Tunde Kolawole. Would you say that?
Well, when I read that in the newspaper, my heart skipped some of its beats. Why do I say this? When the international community begins to raise these kind of issues, it is sending the wrong signal to the rest of the world that the economy of Nigeria has become a bankrupt. It is a nation like Lebanon, like Tunisia, like Ghana, that are unable to meet their foreign obligations to their business partners. And when a nation begins to fail in its financial obligations to foreign partners, foreign businesses and institutions and all that, that means there is a fire on the mountain. You know, when these issues first arose, I think the presidency stepped in and then some of the debts were cleared. And then it has now accumulated again. Rather than make arrangement at the Central Bank of Nigeria that as soon as this money is accruable, it's matured to be paid to all the foreign airlines operating in Nigeria, you remit their money to them. You don't have to start lobbying or start writing letters and go to the presidency to beg before Nigeria begins to meet its foreign obligations to some of these international agencies and bodies. And you know what? Just as it is happening in the airline industry, they are also challenging in so many other areas, like the education area. Some of our children who are schooling abroad are already complaining that they are finding it difficult to get their school fees paid in some of those places. Some state governments are finding it difficult to remit the scholarships that they promised or that they gave to some of their citizens who are studying abroad. So this is a very, very serious matter, and I would want to say that these are things that the military should take serious interest in. rather than designing the Naira and then begin to play politics while still sitting as a CBN governor. It's not a cheering news at all, especially when we look at the ramifications. These are Nigeria's obligations to its foreign business partners and associates.
Well, I'd also like us to, to look at the Guardian newspaper this morning, and still with that, it talks about the rule of law, the fact that you have 130 CSOs and lawyers insisting that Bauer must go. Can you hear me?
Can you repeat that, please? Can you repeat that?
So yes, on the Guardian, you have a caption or a headline that says, "The rule of law. Over 130 CSOs and lawyers insist that Bauer must go." So what are your thoughts, really, as regards this?
You mean the
EFCC boss?
The position of the
CSOs and lawyers.
Yes. On the rule of law?
Exactly.
Oh, well, you don't need any specialist to realize that the rule of law has been receding for so many years now, especially under President Muhammadu Buhari and the APC government. And it is not surprising. Why do I say this? When you look at our history books and the rules, the antecedent of President Muhammadu Buhari, vis-a-vis rule of law when he was head of state, between 1984 and 1985, you will remember that he is somebody who is not too disposed to all these niceties about the rule of law. For him, if it were possible, he would do away with the justice system, and then you probably would just even have, and even the legislator, you probably would just have only the executive arm of government. But good societies are not managed that way. Let me give you two examples. There was a young man and a lady who were said to have criticized President Muhammadu Buhari's wife. And you recall what happened to those young people? The DSS and the police went and kidnapped them in their respective places, and they were taken to Aso Rock, where they were alleged to have been tortured. It was the outcry in the newspapers. And then the stand of National Association of Nigerian Students that compelled the government, or that treated the arm of government to release those people. The mere arrest of those people, taking them to Aso Rock, which is not a police station, is enough. So, in some other jurisdictions, to bring down the government. But Nigerians are very tolerant people. They take all manners of things from their leaders, whereas it shouldn't be that way. It should be able to put the government on its toes. The rule of law is not just meant for the lawyers. It's not meant for the teachers or the media men. Every segment of society, every person that lives in society benefits from the rule of law. Even President Muhammadu Buhari himself had in the past benefited from the rule of law. He went to court several times when he felt he was cheated or the integrity of election was compromised. That is rule of law. But I don't start engaging in self-help. Furthermore, so many other people are complaining of being arrested, or being tortured, or being dehumanized by different security agencies. And we have never seen this government forcing our populace.
Tunde Kolawole, I really don't. I think I like us to stay, with the crux of the conversation here. Now, I want you to look at the crux or the content of which these frontliners, 130 of them, are pushing for. They're saying that Abdurrashid Bauer, of course, the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, has to go over alleged politicization and disobedience of court orders and infringement on human rights of Nigerians, among others. And so they have joined 20 constitutional lawyers by, saying that, hey, he has to go. And prior to this time, don't forget there's also been some ruling from the court as to his disobedience to court orders. So I'm asking your thoughts on the fact that we have to have civil society pushing for his resignation and his sack.
Yeah, we saying the same thing. Why do I say this? You will remember that even the Inspector General of Police was convicted not too long ago for disobedience of court orders. There has been times too. I think it was one of the speakers of House of Representatives, I can't remember him now, who was also convicted by our court. And then the man refused or did not obey the court order. And nobody was able to arrest them and take them to the custodial center as the court have ruled. The challenge we have always had in those areas are this. When a court convicts a high-profile public official, or government official, a politician, it is the executive arm of government that should enforce that conviction, because the court doesn't have the coercive power to really enforce its own decision. So if the executive arm of government refuses to enforce that decision of the court and all that, there is nothing that the judiciary can do. In fact, in some other crimes, immediately Bauer was convicted by the court, he would, on his own position, resign his appointment without being told by anybody. And if he didn't resign, those who appointed him, the people in government, the president or prime minister or whatever, would compel him to leave the office or remove him. Or his case will be tabled at the National Assembly, because his appointment is usually confirmed by the National Assembly, I think the Senate. And then a petition will be written to the Senate or thereabouts and say, look, this man, for court order, completed and all that. But he has refused to submit himself to the custodian people. And from there, the executive arm of government would will the big stick. But here, like I said, because we have no respect for the rule of law, very highly placed individuals, very big people in government, times without number, have always disobeyed court order. And there has been no consequences. That is why we are in this. The approach to it is two-way. It's either we compel such person to voluntarily resign the appointment, or we put the heat on the executive arm of government to remove them from those places. And if we still don't get result from those places, then the National Assembly, or under whatever jurisdiction that they might be, should be compelled to remove them from the as public officials. That one won't be the first person. The idea of police, the big army officers and all that, they have also in the past.
But Tunde Kolawole now, how do we enthrone the rule of law? I mean, just quickly, as you know, Kofi comes in there.
Very, very simple. We must get into governance those who have respect for the rule of law. Secondly, we need to overhaul our policing system. The situation in which the police and all the different security agencies see themselves as beholding, as responsible to only the executive arm of government, to only keep the executive in power, then you cannot have the rule of law as a play. And of course, too, you must encourage the Nigerian people to always insist on their rights, no matter how difficult, no matter how bad, no matter how expensive it could sometimes become. It's a failure of most of our people turning the other cheek when they are slapped, or leaving everything to God, that has led to some of this rot that we see in the area of the picture. And of course, too, we must make sure that those who get to the bench and the lawyers who ply their case in the court and all that are committed to the rule of law. Remember Justice Genevieve in Lagos, when he gave an order, and then the military at that point refused to obey his order. Justice Genevieve said, look, I have no business continue being a judge in Lagos State if the executive arm of government, if the army or whoever is in power will not obey whatever orders I gave. And the man resigned. He resigned as a judge. And if you have 1 or 2, 3 people, 1 or 2, 3 judges who are able to do that, I am sure we'll be on the path to ensuring that we have the rule of law deeply ingrained in our DNA.
All right, then let's see how, what happens. I mean, let's see if we ever get to that point. But we here will continue to talk about these issues and raise, pointers to the fact that we haven't really been great and doing well as regards the respect for the rule of law. And that's it this morning on Off the Press with Tunde Kolawole. Thank you so much. He's a legal practitioner. Tunde, thank you so much. We wish you the same then. Tunde Kolawole is a legal practitioner. He joined the show this morning from Lagos, and we appreciate your time. We'll take a break. When we return, it will be time for us to look at our first major conversation right here. And the consent for us would be that Labour Party is going to inspect election materials, which will help, the prosecution of their case. However, the umpire has also accepted and will be set to release several documents to help, with this entire process. Please stay with us.